In this interview, we'll be learning from Saxon Sawai. He's an actor, and in VeVe, he's a double Donny owner, a special mint collector with some amazing collectibles. Saxon used to own a boutique game publishing company, so he has some amazing insider perspectives about gamification in VeVe. If you enjoyed this interview, please give it a like. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and most of all, subscribe now so that you don't miss out on the actionable and valuable insights brought to you by VeVe's biggest whales and experts, and will help you to make the best decisions possible. Let's get to it. To those who don't know about you, how would you describe yourself?
I am an actor full time. I'm also so I do everything with acting. I do voice acting. I do stunts and all that. You know, you might have seen me working on shows like Hawaii 5-0, NCIS Hawaii, Magnum PI, and I recently got an opportunity to work on Doogie Howser, Kamealoha. And I was Daniel Day Kim's stunt double. So that was a fun experience as well. And yeah, and then on the other side of the spectrum, I'm a full-on NFT DJ, and I'm super into NFTs, and that's kind of like my life too. So I do that. I do acting. I train a lot. I'm heavy into martial arts. I'm into jujitsu, karate, and taekwondo, and everything, boxing and all that. So those are kind of like my passions.
Wow, that's so cool. So how did you get started with VeVe?
During the pandemic, right? We're all kind of trying to figure out like what to do, like we kind of had this a lot of time on our hands. And I used to trade stocks a little bit when, before and all that. So I got back into stocks and trading stocks and all that. And it was in the middle of the pandemic where I heard, what's his name? Mark Cuban. And he said that NFTs are the next big thing. And so I was like, okay, what's an NFT, man? So I started looking up NFTs. I started doing my research. And what is this? What is this NFT thing? Right. And I was in crypto for a long time, right? So I started off in crypto early 2013. I got into Bitcoin. I got into Dogecoin in 2013. So I was always in the cryptocurrency side, and I understood the technology, right? So when I started doing research on NFTs, it kind of all made sense. And so I looked on OpenSea and I looked at some of the stuff they were selling right there, and I kind of wasn't that interested in the art. But I understood it, right? I understood why people wanted the art. But when I started to digest the technology and what an NFT was and what it meant for, my business brain started thinking. I was like, okay, well, if I am an NFT company or if I'm an NFT collector, what's going to be the most valuable NFTs in the future? So I started racing for it. And I was like, well, out of everything that I've done, so I used to have a boutique game publishing company, right? So I've been in tech for a long time. So tech's always been a passion of mine. So when I used to run this company, I would keep track of all of the gaming companies well. They were doing big games and all that. So I had an idea of the market. When I came back to NFTs, I was like, what's going to be popular? And can you guess what I thought of first? Out of all the NFT space, what I thought of first?
Premium digital collectibles?
I mean, like, what do you think? Well, so I thought of IP, right? So I thought of intellectual property being the main staying factor that would hold an NFT's value in the future. But can you guess what that intellectual property I thought of was?
Oh, like the license or the brands.
Right,
Pokemon?
right. Yeah, yes. So it was Pokemon, right? I mean, that was what I thought would be the future of NFTs, or what would lead the NFT space forward, right? And I played Pokemon Go in the early days, not because I really liked to play Pokemon, but because I wanted to understand the gameplay that Niantic was doing, because I knew that was going to be the next big thing, right? Whatever Niantic was doing at the time when they first brought out Pokemon Go, I knew that was going to be the future, right? So I started playing it just to understand everything, and that kind of brought me back to Niantic, and I was like, Pokemon's going to be the biggest IP in the NFT space. And so when I started doing research, I was like, okay, who owns the rights to Pokemon NFTs, right? And then that brought me on to Alcon and the connection that Alcon had with VeVe, and then going into the VeVe app and getting all into the ecosystem from there. So that was really what brought me into VeVe. It was that light bulb that said Pokemon's gonna be the biggest thing in the NFT space, and VeVe had that connection. And so I was like, well, we gotta go with VeVe.
How does joining VeVe to owning two of like the rarest collectibles on the app to Donnys?
Yeah. So so funny, when I first started getting into the app, right? I mean, and you were in early too, right? So all the early guys, all the OGs know that when we first got into the VeVe app, there was the first season of DC, right? And you could still, like, the earliest of earliest guys got their hands on the ultra rare Batman, right? But everybody else, you could still get the common. You could still get the Todd in there. And there were a ton of Todds in the ecosystem available for purchase. I never wanted to buy the Todd because I saw it was a common, right? So I ended up buying everything else. And there was Adventure Time. There was, what else was there? So there was Powerpuff Girls, right? Those are all sold out because those were location based, right? China. So we couldn't get that in the US. Those are all already sold out. But I knew, so it didn't click yet. The light bulb didn't click about Donnie yet. But eventually what I did was I got a Chinese account. So people at that time were selling Chinese accounts made in China, right?
Yeah.
And so we paid for that so that we could get access to Adventure Time and also for the other Powerpuff Girls drops. So I was buying Powerpuff Girls in the app using a Chinese account.
Wow.
Yeah. And then sending them back to my other account.
Yeah.
Now, about a month went by, and then we actually started realizing the true value of these collectibles. Because at first you don't really understand like the true value of it, right? So, you're picking up the ultra rares and there's still a lot of things for sale in the ecosystem. So you're like, well, there's not a huge amount of demand. But then you right before your eyes, you start seeing the demand pick up more and more and more. And then you're like, oh man, this is going to be big. Like, people are starting to adopt this technology at a rapid pace. And so I ended up buying, I ended up getting the whole first season of DC, and that Donnie was, I think it started going up big time, right? And it was at 7,000 or whatnot at one time. And then there's this one time where I woke up one day, I was sleeping, I woke up, and then I had this dream that Donnie would be worth $1 million one day. It was funny. And so I woke up and I'm like, and that's how much I was into like VeVe NFTs, right? That's how much I was into the ecosystem. I woke up, I was having dreams about it. And in my dream, Donnie was worth $1 million. I was like, I gotta buy Donnie. And at that time, Donnie was worth about maybe 10K. And so I was like, I gotta buy Donnie. And what happened was the market went down. So we didn't have access to the market. That was a really tough time for VeVe collectors when the market wasn't available, because you had to buy off app. And how are you gonna transact to buy a $10,000 Donnie at that time, right? So I mean, people were just getting scammed left and right. We didn't have a lot of escrows at the time, and what escrows do you trust? And, it was a rough time for a lot of traders. A lot of traders lost, thousands of dollars during that time. You can only transact off that. But eventually I was able to find somebody to broker the deals for me, and I was able to pick up a couple of Donnies. Yeah,
that's amazing. So you picked up the Donnie number 99 and Donnie number 81.
Yeah.
And for each of them, you paid 10,000 gems.
Well, it was in money, in dollars, so we had to, we paid through kind of like a brokerage. Somebody brokered it for me, and so we picked it up at that price.
So let's talk about some of your other very special collectibles. Mm-hmm. And I know that you are a special mint collector. So I will list some very special collectibles you have, and you can pick any of them, and I would love to hear the behind the scenes stories about them.
Mhm.
So let's talk about Wally 2008, Captain America 41. We can talk about the Goofy 1932 or Partner 1954. You can pick
Yeah.
whatever is like the most special to you.
Yeah, you know what? Let's start off with Partners 1954. So the story behind that was I was I was a low mint collector before I was a date mint collector. And so I started off collecting lower mints, and realizing the value of lower mints. And right around the partners time is where the dates started making sense to me. Because you had a partner collectible, and that meant something. Like there's a history behind that statue, right? And so whenever there's like history behind something, I feel like the dates will matter, you know, like that special date behind that history, right? So Walt Disney Mickey Mouse collaboration was one of the most iconic collaborations ever in the history of the world, right? And so the dates were going to be important. So because I was a low mint guy, I saw Walt. There's a Walt 99 in the market I wanted to pick up for $10,000. I was talking to a friend of mine at the time, and I was trying to get some gems, right? I needed about, I think I needed about like a couple hundred gems, and I was trying to get a couple hundred gems. Anyways, my app wasn't transacting at the time. That was down, right? And so I needed a couple hundred gems just to buy this Walt 99. It was going for 10K in the store. And I was like, okay, I'm going to buy the 99. As soon as I get my 200 gems, the Walt 99 is gone. And this is when Walt was at, I think, like 6K. It's back down again, right? But then it was on the rise, right? Walt was on the rise. And so I missed out my sub 100. So I'm like, dang, I wanted a sub 100 Walt. But then I started like looking really, really into like the dates behind Walt and what were special, what were really, really special about Walt Disney and Mickey Mouse and all of that, right? And so you had, on the last one you talked about, Comments in Crypto talked about the 1901, right? Which is when Walt Disney was born. And then you got 1923, which is when Walt created Disneyland. I mean, he created the company, right? Disney. And then you have 1928, which is when Mickey Mouse was born, right? The actual collaboration between Walt and Mickey Mouse. And then you have 1955, right? You have when Disneyland was made. Now there's one 1954, which nobody really knew about, because what is the significance about that date, right? So the thing is, if you did your research, you would know that 1954 was actually the date that the designer of the statue used as Walt's character, right? So in 1954, the artist looked at Walt and said, he took the 1954 version of Walt and said that was Walt Disney in his prime. And so I'm going to design this statue based off of what Walt looks like in 1954. And so that was an iconic time because that was also the time when Walt made that famous statement. And let's not forget, it all started with the mouse, right? So there was a special that Walt did about Disneyland. And at that time, he realized that everything that he had or the company had become started with Mickey Mouse, and he made that famous statement. So 1954, very special date for that partner statue and the history that it holds, right?
Yeah.
So I like that, and the reason why I loved it so much is because I paid almost $4 for it, So I think somebody mentioned, so somebody mentioned in the chat that it was like about 12K, which at the time was like very close to the floor. Like the floor might have been like 10 or 11. And so I picked that almost off the floor. And so that was very special because somebody who didn't know what the date meant dropped it. I knew because I had done the research on it, and I snagged it from the, basically almost from the floor. So that's why that one holds a lot of meaning for me.
Wow, that's amazing. I honestly didn't know what 1954 meant until I posted that photo of your collection on my Twitter, and somebody
Yeah,
mentioned that. Oh,
yeah.
so that's very special. What about Mint 41 of Captain America? So you basically have the first ever Captain America available to the public, and it came out in 1941. So that's even more special. Can you tell me more about that particular NFT?
Yeah, and so at that time when Marvel Mighties came out, right? People hated on Captain America because it wasn't the Captain America that was dropped on the second drop. Everybody wanted that full size version of Captain America, like how we had with Spider Man. People wanted that to be the first appearance, but then they dropped Marvel Mighties
Yeah.
as the FA, right? So everybody hated that version. Nobody wanted to pick it up. I mean, it was super cheap. Like all those Marvel Mighties in the App Store were super cheap. And so I was like, well, it's not my favorite Captain America, but I know it's the first appearance. And so I'm gonna pick up all of these sub 100s for cheap. So somebody listed the 41. I think there was like, there's a bunch of other sub 100s. All the sub 100s for the Marvel Mighties were cheap back then.
Mm.
And so I picked up a few, and one of them was the 41. I wasn't gonna overpay for it. I wasn't gonna overpay for that particular asset, but somebody listed it for cheap, so I picked it up.
How much did you pay for it? If you don't mind telling me.
You know what? I gotta look in my app. I don't really
Okay.
remember how much I paid for it, but I paid for it in app.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it wasn't an outside brokerage deal. Somebody listed it for cheap in the app, but it was just because nobody wanted the Marvel Mighties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is like a very common belief back then. But then since I started talking to people like you, I mean, like
Yeah.
a lot of people didn't care too much about the Marvel Mighties, but they care about the significance of being like of that collectible being the first ever appearance of Captain America. Like,
Yeah.
I know a guy who owns 700 Captain America, the Mighties. So yeah, there's definitely some value in there. And
Yeah.
was there any NFT that you really wanted that was not listed on the app or something like that that you had to go and hunt for?
Um, I mean, there have been some, like not really of significance, but I'm trying to search for them to complete my set, right? Like, let's say if I have a low mint, I think on the Pride set I have like 99s, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have like 99s on the Pride and the other two, the Clio and the Amelia, but I don't have the 99 for the logo. So I mean, there's things like that where I'm trying to look for, but you just can't find them.
Yeah.
And that goes for some of the other sets too. But there have been items that have crossed my path that I didn't know about or I didn't know was on the market, and people just wanted to get rid of it or they wanted to sell it, and so I have a collectible that it's locked away in my vault that nobody knows I have.
Okay.
And so that was the one that kind of like the grail of all grails for me, that I was able to purchase. I purchased it outside of the app, in a very, very high trade, and that's just locked in my vault for now. I'm not going to release it until the time is right.
Okay, I'm not gonna. So since you wanted to keep it private, I'm not gonna ask for specific details. But is that a
Yeah,
collectible or is that a comic?
it's a collectible.
It's a collectible.
Yeah. So I mean, you can kind of imagine what it might be, but I feel and it's just to my perspective, like, right. So in my perspective, it's the grail of all grails, but to somebody else, it might not.
Oh man, you're making this. Oh, okay. Now, now I am extremely curious. All right. So it is collectible. It is a grail of like it is a grail of grails. Um. Okay. So if you don't mind me asking, does it have multiple colors?
No.
Okay, I got you.
Okay.
All right, I can see what it is.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Um, so, oh man, now I cannot stop thinking about it.
Well, let's talk about lenticulars then, lenticular cards.
Okay, so my next question is, so, and this is more of like a community question. You always go for very special mint. What is your maximum threshold that you are willing to pay for that special mint? For example, are you willing to pay up to 10x the floor, or what is that number?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I will pay 10x floor if it's super, super special, you know? Like, and maybe even a 20x floor if it's that special, you know? Like, if there's like, let's say for example, you know, somebody had the secret rare. I saw they were selling it. It was a secret rare comic of Star Wars, and it was the date that Star Wars came out. I think that that's super special, you know. Plus, it's a secret rare, right? So the guy who got that on the drop, I mean, I think that's a really special comic. And you know, I mean, the comic's under $1,000 right now, right? So I mean, to me, yeah, I pay 20K. I pay 20K the floor. I mean, you know, I mean, 20 times the floor for something like that.
You did,
You know,
or you
no,
would?
I would.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
I think it's a special mint. But you know, there's stuff like that. I mean, it just depends on what the asset is. You know, I mean, if it's, and right now, as far as a collector, I'm really more selective, right? So, and this kind of comes back to my investing in in sports cards, right? Because a lot of times in sports cards, you play hypes, especially with brand new rookie players, right? The number one draft pick comes out and he's all the hype and his cards are like so expensive. He gets hurt a year later and doesn't play, and then it's worthless, right? So I think that's one thing to be careful of in this NFT space is not so much to buy into hypes, but to buy into something that's iconic and that's already there, right? Like you buy a Michael Jordan basketball card, Michael Jordan's always going to be Michael Jordan, you know? And in this space, Batman's going to be Batman. Spider-Man's always going to be Batman. Superman. You know, you've just got these iconic characters that are just always going to be worth a lot of money.
Talking to you just really opened up my mind about this like special mint collecting that I've never, like, I know about it, but
Yeah.
I've not. I'm always buy stuff from the floor because I don't simply cannot afford like special mint collectibles. When you go look for these special mint collectibles, you probably don't think about the fact that one day, you know, like you would sell it, right? Like these things, you probably hold on to them for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think everybody has a price, but I think that yeah, definitely those special mints. When the space gets very big and the high liquidity comes into this space, then you're gonna have bigger players looking for more special mints. Because if let's say you have liquidity coming into VeVe, and then you have a billionaire that is interested in VeVe, he's not really gonna care too much about the floor mint, right? But if you have a special mint, he doesn't mind paying $1 million to get something that he really, really wants, right? Because at the end of the day, it's just about what you want, what you collect, right? What means a lot to you. And at that level, it's like, well, money is really nothing, right? Because you can't take money with you when you die. But I want to enjoy the collectibles that I want to have, right? So if he wants if this guy has so much money and he wants like a very, very special mint, like a number 41 Spider-Man secret rare, and somebody's selling it for $1 million and it's 20 times above floor, I mean, he might pick it up, you know, just because he can, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's what's gonna happen in the space, though. Eventually, right? You're gonna have a lot bigger players coming into the space with refined, I would call it refined appetites.
Right. Yeah. Has anyone reached out to you and say, hey, I'd like to buy that mint of that particular collectible that you have? Has that ever happened?
Yeah. People have reached out to me, but you know, it's hard because like I'm not gonna make an off-app deal anymore, right? I'm only gonna deal on-app. But we don't really have the ecosystem. We don't really have the ability to transact in trading on app. I mean, you have to just lower your price, right, in the marketplace. And as of right now, I just don't. In a bear market, I'm not selling a lot of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to sell a lot of things because I know that there's a lot of value in what I have, and so the time when I'm going to sell is in a pump or in a bull market.
Yeah.
Right now, it's just kind of waiting it out, accumulating. If I want another asset just to collect, just because I want it, then maybe I'll sell something and I'll buy that. But I'm not really gonna do big trades right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, like we talked about, the big players are not really in it, right? I mean, the big ETH whales and all that. Like, so if you have like, let's say a Goofy first appearance, and whatever the market's gonna bear right now, I mean, Goofy's what? How much is Goofy worth now? It's not even.
I have no idea.
It's not worth it, right? It's a few $100s, right?
Yeah.
But the potential of that is massive, right? So you're not gonna get as much as what the future potential of that asset is worth. You know, so I'd rather wait for a more bull market when there's more liquidity coming in and people are just willing to spend over and above what the asset is actually worth.
Yeah. So it looks like you have made some really smart decisions. I think when like institutional investors or these multi-millionaires or billionaires come in, your mint will be the first ones that they look at. So what are your biggest mistakes?
My biggest mistakes were trading off app during the time of, you know, when we didn't have a marketplace. So that was kind of one of my biggest mistakes. I got scammed from somebody, right? Because sometimes we're trusting of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we're trying to do trades and all of that. So that was a mistake. But, you know, I think it happens to everybody, you know, when you're trying, you know, you really got to get a trade done. And, you know, I think it's happened to a lot of people. But I think definitely just being safe is the key for everything. Trying to think of another mistake that I made. I think just timing. Timing is always hard, right? So probably in that market pump, I probably should have sold more. I should have cashed out and held on to more gems. But again, it's always hard to time that, right? It's always hard to time, but you got to take some profits, right? You got to take some profits, but it's always hard to, especially when you're dealing with so many different factors, right? You're waiting on the company to deliver on their promises, but they don't deliver, so that kind of messes up with your timing, right?
Yeah.
So I think that was another mistake that could be avoided in the next market pump. You know, take more profits. And then trying to think. And then, you know, recently, you know, people were buying gems off app and all that. So that was a good time. And I did that. And I could have just bought more gems off app when it was at like 0.5 to the dollar, right?
Yeah.
You know, so but that's about it. I mean, it's really hard to say, you know, but I feel like the moves I made were really good. The only thing, my only regret though, really is that I understood first appearances early on, you know, and then I could have bought 100 Tods, right? I could have been like
Yeah.
Todd Father, right? He saw the vision. He saw the vision of Todd, because I could have bought Tods all day, every day when I got to that, you know. I didn't understand the value that a first appearance was going to have. So I was looking more at ultra rares and rarity, right? So yeah, I mean that's the only thing. I could have bought 100 Tods.
Yeah. I think I joined a few days before you did. I joined
Yeah.
in February 27th,
Uh-huh.
2021, and like I made all the mistakes that somebody could have made when when you're an early user, simply because I
Yeah.
didn't buy anything. Like I didn't buy any Todd. The first collectible I got was a Nightwing, and then I bought a DeLorean on a drop.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have that understanding about the significance of first appearances. And
Yeah.
that's why I'm doing these interviews, so that I can learn from people like you guys, especially like I'm learning from you the importance of special mint. I learned from Sean from the Comics and Crypto podcast the importance of comics. And I do agree with you about like the time in market, because recently I've been having a hard time sleeping, because so I saved up 1,400 gems, and my
Nice.
goal was a Vader or a Todd Batman. So I do have one
Nice.
Todd now, and so I was going for a second. And like last week, Todd and Vader both ran down and ran back up to 2.4, around
Yeah.
that range. So I was patient up to that point, but I wasn't patient enough. So I bought
Yeah.
an R2D2, which is still a very good collectible for
Right.
1,400. So I have 0 gems right now, and
Right.
today R2 is at around 1,000,
Yeah.
and Todd is around 1.7, 1.8. So if I were just a little bit more patient,
Yeah.
I could have used that 1,400 gems and then add in $300 and get that second tot that I've always wanted.
Yeah.
So it's time market is definitely tough.
Yeah, you know, and so it's like it's interesting now, right? Because we're in a bear market. We're not just in a VV. It's kind of a bad time, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
we're not just in a VV bear market. We've turned to VV bear market, crypto bear market, recession, maybe depression, right? I mean, we don't really know what the heck's going to go on in the next year, right?
Yeah.
So we're kind of just holding on to our assets, and it's like, well, you know, do we cash out now? Do we hold everything in gems? You know, is the market going to dip some more? Are we going to like, and the thing is, I mean, really, all that needs to happen is a pump in the market, right? All that needs to happen is Disney says, hey, all Golden Moment members, holders, have instant utility now with Disneyland parks, with our Disney services. You know, we're gonna have this whole utility ecosystem, right? I mean, that's all it could take to boost the ecosystem. Or they could say, okay, well, the move over to Immutable X has allowed us to now trade our assets on OpenSea. We're gonna open it up for Marvel collectibles, Disney collectibles, right? We're gonna have all of that in place, and that'll pump the market massively, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, what do you do, right? I mean, I feel like we need some more inside scoops from the company to know what's gonna happen, right? Time
Yeah.
frames.
So let's shift the conversation to Omi. Do you
Okay.
have an Omi bag, and what are your expectations for Omi?
Okay, so I had a massive Omi bag at one time. I had a massive Omi bag. I got rid of most of my Omi during. I just saw that the crypto markets weren't gonna do so well, and so I used a lot of that Omi to but I didn't leave the ecosystem. So I use a lot of the OMI for my outside transactions, and I bought NFTs, VeVe NFTs off app. So I use a lot of that OMI. When it was a little bit higher, I think it was 0.07.
Wow.
0.07, I started getting rid of my OMI. But now that it's low, I think it's a great time to buy back in. I think it's a great time to buy back in right now. And of course, the market could go a little bit lower. You know, Bitcoin could drop a little bit more, but you know, I mean, people are saying Bitcoin could go to 13,000, and you know, of course, that'll drop the OMI price as well. But I think it's a great time to dollar cost averaging right now. I think OMI's at a point where you know it's at a good price, and we know long term that it's going to be worth a lot of money. But what I want to see with OMI is OMI utility, of course, like what everybody wants to see, right? We want to be able to buy OMI and then use OMI to purchase our digital assets in the app, right? And then we want to be able to sell our Walt Disneys. We want to be able to sell our Spider-Mans for OMI. And then we want to see ETH conversions to OMI, if that's the way they're going to do it, right? Like, so we can get a guy who has 100 ETH and there can be a seamless conversion of ETH to OMI where he can actually buy the assets that he wants. Because a lot of crypto guys, they're not going to go into USD, right? I mean,
right.
We're not going to cash out into USD. We're going to cash out into Ethereum, or we're going to cash out into OMI, or we're going to cash out into USDT, or you know, whatever it is, right? We're going to stay in crypto. So I think most of all of the crypto guys are going to want to do the same. So once we have that OMI utility involved, that's going to open up the ecosystem. That's what I want to see, right? And that's going to pump it. It's going to pump OMI.
Yeah. So this is a two-part question. Are you accumulating OMI? And for somebody who's new, well, let's just say that if you were to have $1,500 right now, would you spend it on collectibles or OMI or both? And so basically, how would you allocate that $1,500?
So, you know, I'm at a different position right now than most collectors. And I feel like if you are happy with the collectibles that you have, I've come to a point where at one point I was super, super competitive, right? I'm in the app, like during the pandemic, I'm in the app at least 8 hours a day. I'm researching collectibles. I'm researching the market. I'm studying NFTs. I'm in app at least 8 hours a day looking for snipes, right? So that's how you get a lot of the opportunities. When back then, nowadays people are so smart, right? A lot of people know what is worth a lot of money. But back then, people didn't really understand low mints. They didn't understand the value of, you know, the low mints to the high mints and special mints. So you could snipe a lot of good things back then. Nowadays, it's a little bit harder. People are more smart to those things, right? But I would put in a lot of work. I put in at least 8 hours just looking through the markets and all that. And so, so I'm at a different point because I'm happy with the collectibles that I have.
Okay, let's say that. Yeah, let's say that your best friend, who's brand new to VeVe and Ecomi, will join the app tomorrow. He has $1,500. He can buy 1 million OMI, or he can buy some collectibles on the secondary market. What would you recommend him? Or maybe like a hybrid option, a little bit of both.
Yeah. Well, I'd say put 500 into OMI and spend $1,000 in the app on NFTs.
And what NFTs would you recommend your best friend to buy with that 1,000 gems budget?
Good question. I'm always a fan of what you're passionate about, you know? So I tell them all the grails, obviously, you know, I'd say, look, you got Todd, you got Superman, you can buy Superman. You've got Mickey Mouse, you've got all of these, you know, you've got the original Golden Moments, Star Wars, right? You've got R2-D2 and all that. What are you most passionate about? You know, I just say, you know, if you like R2-D2, then maybe we have to allocate a little bit more. You spend a little bit more on a little bit less on OMI, and then we'll go with the R2-D2. If you love Superman, you're a diehard Superman, you believe in Superman, buy that Superman spend the rest on Omi. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But that would be my advice, is because what I'm realizing now is that I'm more into just what I want to have as a collector now. Just like not so much on the money proposition, because I'm so like I have all the collectibles that I kind of want. It's more of just like, I don't need 100 cards. I don't need 100 Supermans. I just need the ones that I really, really want, you know?
Mhm.
And if you really, really love Superman that much, then yeah, by all means have 100 Supermans. But, I just want, a few Walts or a few Spider-Man secret rares, that'll make me happy. I don't have to have 10 secret rare Spider-Mans to make me happy. I can have a couple of Spider-Man secret rares and a Walt, and I can have a Darth Vader in a mint number that I want, and then that'll make me happy as a collector.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on that note, now that we have MTL cash out, we probably confident to do a lot of marketing. So for the new users who will come into the app, who are fresh to VeVe and Ecomi, what 3 advice would you give them?
We're new to the app. Okay.
Mhm.
So first off, don't FOMO in, especially in the bear market, right? Like, you see a lot of collectibles drop, and then people will just like, oh, they'll see the price rising on the first day. Boom, boom, boom. Everybody's buying it on the first day, and it doubles in price, right? Take a breath. If you see something go pumping, take a breath. You can wait a week, you can wait 2 weeks, you can wait 3 weeks. The price, most likely will come down in this market. So don't FOMO and be careful with your purchases. Be patient about a entry point, a good entry point, right? And I would say be safe about your assets. Be very safe, right? Don't use all of your money that you don't have. Don't go out and don't go out and leveraging yourself. We saw a big problem with companies during this crypto bear market who have over leveraged themselves, right? A lot of companies crashing, going bankrupt, and it's due to being over leveraged. So if you take out money and you use money that you don't have, and the bear market dips even further, then you take on even more risk, and you have a chance of losing a lot of money. So I know a lot of friends that have lost a lot of money, not in crypto, but just in all things. You don't want to over leverage yourself. And then 3, I would watch a lot of podcasts. I would do a lot of research. Before you start going in and buy low mints, before you start going in and spending a lot of money on certain mints, you want to do your research. You want to listen to Will's channel. You want to listen to the Comics and Crypto guys. You want to listen to Sleep In Comics. You want to listen to all of these guys who have collectors experience and whatnot, and just get as much information as you can to make the best decisions. Otherwise the best play is buying off of the floor, and just waiting for a cheap price to come up. But yeah, I would say that going forward, I think we're gonna see a huge expanse in the ecosystem, right? We're gonna see a lot of collectibles coming in, right? We're gonna see multiple drops per day, and not all collectibles are going to be worth a lot of money. So I think moving forward, you just have to collect what makes you happy. Like, what are you the most bullish about? Like, are you a massive Star Wars fan? Then, well, hey, you got to bet on Star Wars. Then. If you see what Disney's doing with the Mandalorian and Grogu, and you're super bullish about Star Wars, and I would just say, hey, stick to your gut. It's almost like stocks, right? You just buy the stocks of the companies you feel is going to be worth a lot of money and that you use. So I would just stick to whatever you're passionate about.
Yeah. So you used to own a gaming company, right? Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So how do you see the future of gamification on VeVe? Is that something possible? Is that doable? And is that even the future of NFT?
Yes, I believe it's the future, but also, right, there's also, gaming is a very tough ecosystem to crack, right? Anybody who's in the gaming world will know that it's not easy to make a game that everybody wants to play. And
Right.
you've seen a lot, so you've seen a lot of big companies that have had like their massive hits, and Candy Crush, Angry Birds, and all of that. But it's very hard to sustain that momentum, right? It's very hard to come out with another game and another game, and then to create that demand for long periods of time. So I think VeVe has all of the right partnerships to create a great game, but it's gonna be tough if VeVe just wants to develop a game ecosystem on their own. It's very tough to make something like that successful. I think what they should look at, and of course I'm just a fan, right? I'm not an executive at VeVe, but just based off of what I've seen in the ecosystem, I think it would be smart for VeVe, now that they have a big load of cash, to look at acquisitions, right? You look at what Disney is doing, right? Like Disney doesn't make their own games, right? Because it's so hard.
Right.
Even all of these big companies, right? A lot of them don't make their own games. So it's gonna be in the partnerships, in the future partnerships, and maybe even in acquisitions, right? Facebook, to me, let's take a prime example. Facebook, Facebook is not innovative. They're not an innovation company, right? I mean, the idea of Facebook was actually stolen, and Instagram was bought, right? So they have these but they're very powerful companies, right? And so I feel like at this time during the bear market, you're going to see a lot of companies that are struggling now because it's a bear market. VeVe has this mass exposure to an even bigger crowd than most of these Web3 companies, right? So if they can take the cash that they have now and look at some of these Web3 companies on sale that are innovating at a high pace, they could buy up the next big thing in this ecosystem. So it might not be trying to make it your own, but purchase a company that has already got that innovative experience and talent. They can take you to the next level, right? Look at what Nike did, right? They bought Artifact. Like Nike wasn't
You have
about
a Clonex.
yeah, Nike wasn't about that game of, hey, we're gonna build our own metaverse and we're gonna be the next big thing. They're like, okay, we see this company in its infancy stages innovating at such a high pace, they're gonna be the next big thing. And it's being able to recognize these companies, right? And so when Nike bought out Artifact, you already know that Nike's gonna be a big player in the space, and they're gonna dominate the fashion industry, right? And so it's just like VeVe. Like VeVe, I don't think they should try so hard to develop their own metaverse and gaming ecosystem, but partner/acquire. And one of the things that Al Khan said, and he said this a while back, right? He said he's working with Niantic, or I don't think he said Niantic, but he said we're working with the guys who created Pokemon Go, right? He said something like that, right? So if that is Niantic, I'm super bullish. I'm super bullish because I already know that Niantic has a working product that everybody has, everybody likes. They have the fan base, and so a partnership with Niantic to create some kind of a game, whether it's a Marvel Mighty's game or Pokemon game or whatever it is, I think that would be a very smart move. So I think partnerships is key, and acquisitions will be key for VeVe to bring this to the masses.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that would be very game changing. Saxon, So this is one of the harder interviews for me to do because you were dropping so much knowledge. So like I had my questions ready, but at the same time you were like, so were you saying ABC, and I was like, huh, that sounds very interesting, and I just kind of lost track. And I would definitely have to ask you to do a second interview, maybe at some point in the future. I have so many questions. I can see that you are wearing an Iron Man shirt. I know you mentioned that your dad is a big Iron Man fan, and that's how you guys bonded over VeVe as well. And I would love to talk about your acting career, but I just wanted to say that I really appreciate you coming on and sharing all the knowledge and experience and mistakes too with me and the viewers today. I've learned a tremendous amount, and I probably have to rewatch this interview multiple times.
Hey, well, thanks for having me on. Wish you for much success on your channel, and I'll be watching your next episode. So appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah. So last question: what is a movie that you are on that you would recommend me watching? I haven't been able to follow your acting career, so how should people find out about you as an actor as well? Like through what movie?
Well, you can follow my Instagram, at Saxon Sawai, and I usually post all my updates on there. And or you can check out my IMDb, and that usually has some of the stuff that I've done on there. More of the bigger stuff is on IMDb, so you can see there. You can see what episodes I'm in and all that. And
okay.
Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, I wish you the best of luck with your acting career as well. I know that you just started after spending 10 years in business. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Once again, I wish you the very best, and thank you so much for coming on today, Saxon.
Okay, thanks, Will. You take care.
All right, appreciate it.
Have a great week.
Weekend. Yeah, that is it, you guys. I hope you have enjoyed my conversation with Saxon today, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. I would love to get your feedbacks. If you enjoyed this video, please give a like, and remember to hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on the actionable and valuable insights brought to you by VeVe experts and whales, the biggest whales, who will help you to make the best decisions possible. Thank you so much, guys. I hope to see you again next time. Peace.